This has the whiff of August 1945. Somebody just used a new weapon. And this weapon will not be put back into the box.
But STUXnet.
STUXnet and
STUXnet actually math of STUXnet is.
I'm not the first to cover this topic. In fact, there's a lot of videos and coverage on the internet as it is today. The purpose of this malware and eventual uncovering of STUXnet is what we're going to talk about in this video. It's quite extensive, so sit tight, or if you just want to listen, that's fine too.
It would have taken a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of expertise to build something like this. And really that leaves very few candidates for who could have been behind it.
And part of our goal has always been to slow down the process of development and developing nuclear weapons over there. So how much has their program been hurt?
And to do the whole attack in a completely covert manner, that any time centrifuges would break, the operators would think
To really get an understanding of the purpose of STUXnet, we have to take a brief look at the turbulent relationship between US and Iran. Some turmoil has been present for some time. The United States attributes the worsening of relations to the 1979 to 1981 Iran hostage crisis, Iran's repeated abuses in human rights since the Islamic Revolution, its growing influence in the Middle East, and its nuclear program. Since 1995, the United States has had an embargo on trade with Iran, with the latest sanctions in 2020. FATF and other financial sectors targeting 18 banks. FATF essentially means targeted financial sanctions, both asset freezing and prohibitions to prevent funds and other assets from being made available. I'm not trying to give an entire history lesson on the United States and Iran's relations. I'm here to talk about STUXnet, but I had to give a brief detail of some turmoil that has been present. Now, it's been my understanding during some research that the US has been trying to prevent or slow down Iran's nuclear power capabilities for a multitude of reasons for which you can do your own research. I will provide the links that I have in the description. Between Israel and Iran, there's been a series of proxy conflicts and covert operations against each other. With a history so rich of turmoil and so convoluted, I could spend all night talking about this. By August of 2002, Natanz nuclear facility was exposed by one Alireza Jaharzadeh. Natanz is a hardened fuel enrichment plant covering 100,000 square meters that is built 8 meters underground and protected by a concrete wall 2.5 meters thick. This was a uranium enrichment fortress. And there are two nation states that had a massive problem with Iran developing weapons of mass destruction. Hopefully I've been able to clear up these two nation states that had this issue. With multiple agencies working on a secret cyber weapon, it's time we dive into STUXnet. STUXnet is a very complicated and sophisticated virus with tens of thousands of lines of code. It was first discovered in Belarus by June 2010. After antivirus technicians re-engineered this malware, they were able to discover that STUXnet, or otherwise known as Operation Olympic Games, was coded in a way that it went through sequences and checks to affect a specific target. Now you have to ask yourself, if it went through all of these checks and balances to affect a specific target, that target had to be pretty big or pretty significant. This code was so expensive and sophisticated that it had multiple 0 days. 0 days are essentially just a backdoor that only the attacker is aware of. And just to be clear, 0 days cost upwards of $100,000. For this to have 4, you're looking at a $500,000 virus just in development. So now we have to start looking at what exactly it was programmed to attack and affect. By now, it's pretty common knowledge that STUXnet was programmed to affect Siemens PLCs. If you don't know what PLCs are, they are programmable logic controllers. What PLCs do is maintain infrastructures such as traffic lights, water treatments, power grids, and nuclear enrichment facilities. Once the targeted PLCs were infected with STUXnet, what STUXnet would do is record data of normal operation for at least 13 days before conducting its series of attacks. It would wait 13 days because of the amount of time it takes for a cascade of centrifuges to fill up. Once it started its attack, the centrifuges would speed up to high rates of speed. Its safe range of RPMs was around 63,000. STUXnet would increase this to at least 80,000, effectively hitting a resonance vibration, before returning back to a normal speed. And then in its second series of attacks, it would bring the centrifuges down to a slow speed, almost a standstill, and that would create the opposite effect of a resonance frequency vibration, make them wobble, and between these two, they would hit the threshold of this metal, and it would just completely shatter. So now we have this computer virus taking out real-world, tangible items. When it was all said and done, only about 1,000 centrifuges were destroyed. Personally, I find it kind of disappointing, but kind of a relief. For a cyber world virus to destroy actual world things in the real world is scary. This would definitely feel like a scene out of a movie or a page out of a science fiction book. What the United States NSA and Israel's 8200 unit did was pretty much give out a textbook to anyone capable of doing damage to infrastructures. Now, I'm not saying it would be easy. It would take a lot of money and expertise. But the STUXnet virus can be downloaded off the internet today. What makes this a very dangerous virus is the ability to attack the infrastructures. Right now, this can be used to alter the way we see life. We may have already been on the receiving end of this. Imagine if an oil pipeline were to be shut down. Think of the implications of that. This is Trickbook. You have a good night.